Hey everybody, it is You Had to Ask, the show where I answer your questions, and this week, my first question comes from Troubleshooter125, who says, Steve, what do you think of the decline of print newspapers? I realize that in the age of the 24-hour news cycle and cable and internet news sources, it is likely inevitable, but I also see it as problematic, especially as regards coverage of local and neighborhood issues which generally don't get picked up by other media. I know you're not wild for the Hagerstown paper, but I suspect that its departure would leave a pretty large informational hole in the Sharpsburg-Hagerstown area. So what you think? The one thing about the Herald Mail that I will say, the one function that it serves that is welcome and necessary is that it does enable people around here to know what is going on in a very general sense. And I wonder when the day finally does come when print newspapers basically vanish. I mean, they're in a very steep decline now, but when that medium doesn't exist anymore, will we still have that sense of being able to know in a very general way what's going on? Because newspapers are sold all over the place. There are machines that have the paper in them. You can go to the library and read the day's paper for free if you can't afford to buy a copy. You can see the front page in the newsstand as you're standing in line at the grocery store or the gas station. And you can just glance at it, and it doesn't matter how much money you have, it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what station of life you occupy. You can just glance at the front page of the paper, and you can have a very general idea of what's going on, and you can keep up with what's going on. And I wonder how many people would be left behind, or would find it more difficult to keep up with the news, even in that very superficial, very broad way, if print newspapers disappear. And I'm probably overstating the problem. There will always be ways for people. You know, the number of people who don't have access to television or to computers is shrinking by the day, and hopefully by the time print newspapers go away, that number of people will be even smaller. And my concern about, you know, there being more barriers to getting the news than there are now with newspapers will turn out to be unfounded. But that's a thought that I had when I read your question, that what will become of just being able to, you know, go like that when you're standing in line to pay for something and being able to just glance at the front page of the paper and go, oh, the new bridge opened, you know, or whatever. I wonder about that. Lone Gun 23. Steve, I have a follow-up to Laura Smith's question. While I agree with most of your points, someone should have intervened and nobody should hit anybody. However, I think you kind of sidestepped her question because, as it so happens, she states it clearly that nobody intervened, not until he retaliated. So what was he supposed to do then? Keep getting hit until someone decided to intervene? Or she tired herself out, risking injury to himself and to his girlfriend? What would you do in such a situation? Keeping in mind that from that scenario, you could not seem to disengage yourself from the assailant. I have never been in the exact situation that her question described, so I can't say for sure what I would do or what you're supposed to do. Not that I would know what you're supposed to do if I had been in that situation anyway, because who's to say what I did is the right thing to do. I have been in the situation, though, of being attacked by a woman, a really, really angry woman. This was not a woman who was a stranger to me or who was, attacking me in like a fight. I mean, it was a fight, but it was a woman I was in a relationship with, and she was really, 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 really pissed off at me, and she was like fucking going off on me and hitting me a lot, and boom, boom, like it was like a lot of just really angry violence. And I'm not saying that what she did was okay, because it's not okay to do that to anybody. Even if your emotions get carried away and even if you are just, you lose control of yourself, it's just not okay. But in that situation, I did not hit her back. I absorbed what she was hitting me with. I absorbed the blows. I tried to protect myself. I tried to calm her down and keep her sort of away from me. I never once hit her back. I never thought that I might hit her back. I never wanted to hit her back. It was not even remotely an option for me in my head. And I don't see how that is a bad mindset. I'm sure there are exceptions. I'm sure there are times when a man could be excused for hitting a woman in self-defense or to protect someone else. I'm not denying that, but I'm saying as a general rule, I am not going to say that it's not a really good idea for men to not hit women. And what really sort of distresses me, and I'm not saying that this applies to your question, but there are quite a few comments in response to my reply to that question last week, where it really felt like they were trying to come up with scenarios where it would be okay for a man to hit a woman. And that bothers me. That need to try to come up with some hypothetical scenario where, oh, but if this happened, if she did this and it was in this situation, then it would be okay to hit her, right? Ask somebody else for permission to hit women. I'm not going to tell you it's okay to hit women. I'm just not going to do it. You're talking to the wrong guy. I'm not going to tell you it's okay to hit men either, but I don't hear too many people seeking permission to hit other men. But there is often, in these sorts of discussions, especially when someone says it's a bad idea for a man to hit a woman, there's always somebody who wants to step up and volunteer and say, oh, what about this? Is it okay to hit a woman if she does this, or if this happens, or if this happens? I'm not interested in thinking of excuses for when it's okay for a man to hit a woman. So if you're looking for someone to excuse that, even in theory, or to indulge that particular scenario, it's not going to be me. I'm not going to do it. Jason with a D. Okay, serious question. You have a time machine, and you can play on any baseball team in any year. What team, when, and why? I probably wouldn't put too many miles on the time machine because the first thought that I had was to go back and play on the World Series winning 1983 Orioles. And the reason is because that's the most recent World Series winning team for the Orioles, but it's not generally thought of as one of their great like dynasty teams like they had in the late 60s and the 70s. But that 83 team still had Jim Palmer. It also had Cal Ripken in his second season. It had Eddie Murray, my favorite player ever. So those are, I mean, to be able to play on an Orioles team that would win a World Series and to play with those three guys on the team. Yeah, I don't get Brooksy. Brooksy's not on the team at that point. Frank Robinson has long since moved on, but you get Cal, you get Eddie Murray, and you get Jim Palmer still hanging on there. So that would be the team I would pick if I had to go back in time and play on one team. I almost wanted to say the 1909 Pirates because they played that World Series that year against the Tigers, and there was the great meeting between Honus Wagner and Ty Cobb in the World Series, and there's that great story about the time that Cobb was on first and he was going to steal second, and like he yelled at Wagner that he was coming, and Wagner said, "Come on!" And then the throw came to throw Cobb out when he did inevitably steal second, and Wagner took the ball in his bare hand and tagged Cobb out in the face with the ball. It just was like, boom, you're out. Except that story's probably apocryphal. So I would be really disappointed to travel all the way back in time to play on the 1909 Pirates and be waiting for that play, and it never happens. So I'm going with the 83 Orioles. Terry James, has there ever been a time when you disagreed with a feminist viewpoint? Perhaps a cultural critique? I'd find it hard to believe that a feminist hasn't found faults with a movie you love like Anita Sarkeesian has with some video games. Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, there's a video on my channel that you can watch where me and my wife disagree about Joss Whedon on the basis of feminism, on whether or not he is a feminist filmmaker or whether or not his films or his work are feminist enough or are positive with their depiction of women. My wife and I both consider ourselves feminists. At least I would like to be thought of as a feminist. It's something that I support and something that's very important to me. And we disagree about that. We disagree about a lot of stuff when it comes to feminist stuff. And there have been times when I've disagreed with Anita Sarkeesian. There have been times when I've disagreed with the reactions of feminists to certain things, to certain movies, the reading that some feminists give to certain films. I've never been angry about it because I don't think anything I've ever heard a feminist say in terms of like a cultural critique or a film critique has ever been offensive. It's just been a different take than I have. It's just been something that I've disagreed with. It doesn't make them a bad person. It doesn't mean that they've done anything that I should be angry about. It just means that they see things differently than I do. We might be able to have a very lively conversation about it, but it doesn't mean that it's worth getting upset over. But yeah, of course I've disagreed with feminists. Feminists disagree with each other all the time. There's a great deal of internal debate and conversation in feminist circles. Sometimes it gets out of hand and it turns kind of nasty, but hopefully it doesn't. Usually it doesn't. It's just vigorous debate and disagreement. Any legitimate intellectual movement would have that. So yeah, feminists disagree with each other all the time on stuff. And I disagree with feminists on stuff all the time. Clarence Crawford. Steve, I am a 29-year-old gay male. I came out when I was 19. Luckily, I have liberal Christian parents. However, some members of my family suggested gay conversion therapy. What are your thoughts on gay conversion therapy? I think it's a form of psychological abuse. I think it's bullshit. I don't think its goal is valid. I don't think there's any reason to want to change a homosexual person's sexual orientation. I think the whole premise of it is wrong-headed. And I've heard some really awful stories about things that go on in conversion therapy, or what used to be called reparative therapy. There was a court case just last week, I think, in New Jersey, where a particular group that was offering gay conversion therapy was found to be committing fraud. And I think that's probably the case with all of them, because I don't think the enterprise in general is a legitimate enterprise. I'm not for it at all. I'm completely against it. I think it's a horrible, usually it's always unnecessary and often probably turns out to be abusive and very damaging to the patients that it's purporting to help. Alejandro Tierney. Hello, Steve. My question is this. I was listening to Mark Maron's interview with Barack Obama and picked up something of a strange coded admission by Barack Obama. 1, he said his mom was a secular humanist. 2, he did not go to church in his youth, meaning he was never indoctrinated in any church. 3, he did a whole monologue on using reason and logic to solve problems. Is this an admission that he is a closet atheist or secular humanist? No, I don't think so. First of all, I think that Mark Maron interview was amazing. If any of you haven't watched it, it's one of the most downloaded podcasts ever at this point, I think. It's WTF, Mark Maron's podcast. If you haven't listened to it, I cannot recommend it highly enough. It's really remarkable. I don't think anything Obama said there was something that I didn't know already. I mean, maybe it's just because I've been a fan of Obama for a while. I've followed his career since 2004, when he gave that famous speech at the Democratic Convention, when he was running for Senate. So most of the things that he said about himself in that podcast were things that I knew the information already. I am not someone who believes he is a closet atheist, or I take him at his word when he says he's a Christian. The nature of his upbringing, where his mother was secular and wanted to expose him to many different faiths, that's not new information. That's something that he's talked about before. The fact that he was not raised in a formal religion and that he came to his current Christian faith relatively late in life, after he was a grown person, not as a result of childhood indoctrination. That's something that he's talked about before. And I don't see any purpose in speculating that he's secretly an atheist, given the fact that he has repeatedly affirmed that he is a Christian. And I don't have a problem with him being a Christian. I don't know that I would really admire him anymore if it turned out that he was an atheist. I don't need him to be an atheist to think that he's a cool guy and think that he's been a really good president. And to, especially lately, the last couple weeks with the Supreme Court same-sex marriage ruling, the amazing eulogy he gave at Clementa Pinckney's funeral last week. I don't see how him also happening to agree with me on atheism would elevate him that much more. I'm happy with him being a Christian. That's fine with me. So no, I don't think it was a coded message, and I don't think he is secretly an atheist. I just don't. J. Lawman DK. Hey Steve, as a feminist, do you think prostitution should be legal or banned? There was a really, really excellent video that Midnight Goddess put up on the Breakfast Club this past week. She did a guest video on Monday, I think. And it was about, protecting sex workers and decriminalizing prostitution. And she came at it from the angle of because this would be the safest thing and the best thing for the sex workers themselves. And in the past, when I have expressed some squeamishness about legalizing prostitution, it has been because I fear the exploitation of the sex workers, and I don't want it. I don't want to make it easier for people to take advantage of them. But Midnight Goddess sort of showed me another side of it, where the criminalizing of it and the adversarial relationship between sex workers and law enforcement, and the sort of the influence of driving those activities sort of underground, is actually very damaging. So my wish to do what's best for the sex workers themselves and to do whatever is possible to protect them from exploitation may not be accomplished by criminalizing their behavior. And now that I think about it, that's kind of obvious. So I'm not sure. I don't want to come right out and say, oh, I think it should be completely legal. I think it should probably be legal, and it should probably be very, very closely regulated. Not only to protect in terms of health and safety, but in terms of exploitation, to make sure that nobody is being coerced into anything, nobody is being abused, nobody is being placed in a situation where being a sex worker is going to ruin their life or jeopardize their future or their health. Bite my shiny metal ass. Dear Mr. Steve, I am a Amerindian, Mestizo, Hispanic, Ecuadorian college student, and I have a question. Steve, some people claim that the Confederate represents heritage, but it's hard to justify that when most of the flag is negative. Now, with that being said, how do you feel about how Americans see Christopher Columbus? People see him as a hero, but he came to a land filled with Native Americans and enslaved, raped, and killed many of them, including children, and spread diseases and forced the Christian religion. He even did this to the indigenous people in Latin America, including Ecuador. He also enslaved blacks. Schools teach kids he's a hero and hide the ugly truth. How can we celebrate this man and what he did? We even gave him a holiday. He is the human form of the Confederate flag for Latinos, blacks, and Native Americans. Am I wrong to feel bothered by this? Thoughts or advice? Oh, you're certainly not wrong to be bothered by it. I'm troubled by the veneration of Columbus too. I think that's something that we are very slowly waking up to as a culture. And the main reason why it's taking so long for us to realize that our celebration of Columbus is something we're going to have to get rid of is because most of us white people don't see the problem. Because at least in terms of popular culture, if not actual history, Columbus is one of the founding fathers in the New World of the system that has benefited white people like me for 500 years. So we don't see the problem as easily as people of color do, as Latino people do, as Native Americans do. Because when you have in your history, when you have the knowledge that you are a descendant, both physically, biologically, and also culturally and socially, of people that were exploited and terribly abused and mistreated by Columbus and by the other Europeans who came after him, you have a very different perspective on it. And unfortunately, many of us white folks are very slow to hear the experiences and the opinions and the viewpoints of people of color. And when a black person or a Hispanic person or an American Indian or someone descended from an indigenous people in this part of the world says, actually we think what Columbus did was really fucking horrible and he committed a lot of atrocities against us and we're really not cool with having statues of him and days named after him. We as white folks often have a tendency to just go, yeah, as if it's not really that big of a deal. And that's a problem. That's why we're even arguing about it. I do think that we're getting to the point where we're going to have to get rid of Columbus Day. We're going to have to reckon with the fact that even though we owe a great deal to Columbus and to European colonization, there's a lot there that we should be ashamed of, that we should not be proud of. That we can be thankful for in the sense that we are beneficiaries of that system, but that doesn't mean that it is a good system that must be thoroughly defended comprehensively. There are things about the system, especially the way it was founded, especially the genocide and the enslavement of Native people, that we should not be proud of and we should not be celebrating. And that's something that we're going to have a come to Jesus moment about that. It hasn't happened yet, but it is slowly dawning on us that that's what's going to happen. And of course, by that noise, you know what has to happen now. It's time for
the lightning round. Rapid fire questions, glib and adequate answers.
Alex Richardson, hey Steve, which character do you think should be the villain in the next Spider-Man movie? You know, I would have said Rhino, because I think the Rhino is an awesome villain, but they used him already, so maybe the Vulture. I like the old classic, like Ditko, Romita, Stan Lee villains from Spidey. Maybe the Vulture. The Vulture's a good one. Daniel Dano Sheehan. Hi, Steve. Has Adi ever had issues with the rest of your cast? Or does Adi have a favorite cast member that you find them curled together in their off time? Keep making good videos. Well, thank you, Dano. I'll do my best. No, Adi is fairly indifferent to the stuffed animals. She doesn't really bother them. She doesn't seem interested in them. She doesn't seem, upset by them. She just doesn't really care. And that is not for lack of trying on Toby Benson's part. Toby Benson has repeatedly attempted to befriend her, with very little success. Putanesca 621. Putanesca. I'm butchering your name, I'm sure. Putanesca 621. In every generation there is a chosen one. She alone will stand against the vampires, the demons, and the forces of darkness. Do you think in the Stuffy universe that despite the gender and species difference that Stuffy could be chosen? I suppose he could be, but I don't know how well suited he would be to that. Stuffy is very gentle. I don't know if he would be a fighter, even if he were fighting evil beings and he was supposed to save the world from vampires. I just don't know if Stuffy's the right person for that job. He's a very gentle person. Jubilee Helix, you have suddenly inherited all of the DC company. What would your first move be? Fire David Goyer. Remove him from a creative position in terms of the movie franchise. That would be the first thing. Sorry, David. Thanks for everything. You're out. And then shit can all of his scripts and cancel all the projects that he was involved in developing because he's terrible. Mint Green Rogue. Hey, Steve, could you show me some excitement about marriage equality? My friends are completely apathetic and it's killing my buzz. I think it's awesome. I was so thrilled by the same-sex marriage Supreme Court ruling. I think it is an amazing step forward for our country. Long, long, long overdue. Nothing but good news. I was very enthusiastic about it. I think it's wonderful news. I'm so happy for people who can finally get married when they couldn't before. I'm so happy for our country that we've finally taken this step forward. I think it's a major milestone in civil rights in this country's history. I think it's a fucking amazing, amazing bit of good news. I'm not apathetic about it at all. Veronica Kolinska. Hey, Steve, do you like Amy Schumer? Yes. Oh, I love Amy Schumer. I think she's amazing. I think her show is one of the best shows on TV right now. And this season, this most recent season has been really phenomenal. Just absolutely phenomenal. She's a great example of how you can be incredibly funny and also make political and social statements and, do political and social commentary while not sacrificing the laughs one bit. She's an amazing, amazing comedian. Seth Topper, why are you so heavy-handed toward the MRAs? Because they are hate mongers who exploit legitimate problems to cover their asses while they harass women and apologize for rapists. And why should I not hold them in contempt? They behave terribly, their ideology is disgusting, and they exploit legitimate problems to make themselves seem legitimate when they are nothing of the kind. So I have nothing but contempt for them, and I've never heard a reason why I should feel anything else about them. They're some of the worst people on the internet, and that is really saying something. Little Panda. If I do find myself in a situation where I'm being attacked by someone, could be older or younger than me, could be male or female, and I don't think I can keep myself safe simply by blocking their attacks, if I feel that I will be hurt if I don't retaliate, how would you advise me to handle the situation within the law when I know that there are grade schoolers in martial arts classes who can break my ribs or snap my knees? Well, look, I'm not a cop, I'm not a lawyer, I can't really tell you what to do within the bounds of the law. If you're being attacked and you feel you have to defend yourself, I'm certainly not saying that you should not defend yourself if you feel like you're in danger. All I'm saying is, in general, on principle, I am not comfortable with telling a man that it's okay to hit a woman. I just don't think that's cool. I think that is a good principle to stick by. Man, don't hit the woman. That's all I'm saying. It doesn't mean that you're not allowed to defend yourself. Use your own judgment if you are ever unfortunate enough to be in such a situation. Otis McNutt III. Hey, Steve. Here's a lightning round question. Thin mints or Samoas? As a lifelong thin minter, I'm curious to see where your Girl Scout snacking allegiances lie. P.S. If you say thanks a lot, you are dead to me. Those aren't cookies. They are edible punishment that should be outlawed by the Geneva Convention. Thin mints. Thin mints are maybe my favorite cookies ever. Period. I love the combination of chocolate and mint. So Thin Mints are right up on top of the list for me. Hey, that's it for the questions, everybody. Before I get out of here, I'm going to give a shout out to a very deserving? What the fuck is that? Deserving YouTube channel. This is actually someone who I've given a shout out to before for his personal channel, his main channel. But he started another channel recently. So the shout out this week goes to Reaper Nation Network. And this channel was just started by Landon Taylor, who I shouted out some time ago for his main channel. You might know him as Tombstone the Dead Man. You might know him for his music and for his videos on that channel. He is just amazing. He's an awesome guy and does great stuff. Really talented artist. Just I can't say enough good things about him. And the Reaper Nation Network is a new channel he started that is devoted to geek culture. Nerd culture. He talks about video games and movies and comics and also science, which is really cool because you can be nerdy and geeky about science too. It's just a really awesome, fun channel. And it's great to see him branching out and doing something new and using his talent and his enthusiasm and all the wonderful things that make him so great to watch and great to listen to. And to talk about all these things that a lot of us find a lot of fun and really important. I've never been much of a video gamer, but I love comics, I love movies. So the Reaper Nation Network, it's brand new. He just started it. He just went live with it maybe like a month ago, not even that long maybe. So not many subscribers yet, just starting to get the content up and running, but get in on the ground floor of Reaper Nation Network because it is just so cool. If you're a video gamer, there's stuff for you to watch. If you're interested in movies and science, there's just so much content that he has available to him because of he's opening it up to all things geek. It's not just a particular kind of nerd culture. It's anything that people can be really excited and maybe kind of obsessive about. It's a really great channel just in this early stage, and I can only imagine how cool it's going to be when it has a chance to grow and build its audience and really find its voice. So check it out. Landon Taylor's new YouTube channel, Reaper Nation Network. Highly recommended. And if you're not subscribed to his main channel on Tombstone the Dead Man, you should check that out too because he's just generally awesome. He's just a great dude. Well, by the way, don't forget to check out the Lemme Listen podcast. Go to soundcloud.com/Lemme-listen and listen to Jason Harding's awesome series of podcasts that he does every week. Every other week, I do a podcast with him, a movie review podcast called Late Seating, which I would love for you guys to check out if you don't listen to it already. We put up a new episode last Friday. If you haven't listened to that, go check it out. We review the movie Apollo 13. And we're going to record the next episode this weekend, and I will be telling you about that in next week's You Had to Ask episode. But go to soundcloud.com/Lemme-listen. Check out all of Jason's awesome podcasts. And because I'm a narcissist, especially check out Late Seating, because I'm in that one. So, hey, that's it. I'm done. I'm gonna leave now. I'm gonna I don't know, maybe take a Benadryl. My nose has bothered me a little bit. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a comment on this video, asking me your question for next time. Ask me anything about anything. Nothing is too serious. Nothing is too silly. I will answer as many of them as I possibly can in the next video. So until then, take care, everybody.